What's good? What's good? What's good? Aquí andamos on another episode of Con Puros Compas podcast con su compa Carlos Rodríguez
Su compa El Bart.
y el compa José Cermeño on the audio antes que se me
Yeah, I said El
olvide.
Bart, right? I didn't say El Bardo.
Yeah, you're changing it.
fucking
You're changing it up.
El Bardo.
So today is make sure you have a couple of them rolled up because we got some good stories today. I had mentioned it earlier. It's gonna be a little bit more on the serious note, but I also don't want anybody to be all tense up and shit. We can crack a joke here and there, and smoke some good weed and whatnot. But today, our guest, we have a double guest, two guests. We have our good friend, fellow singer, Celso.
Yes,
¿Cómo
sir.
está mi compa Celso?
What's up, what's up, what's up? Saludos a todos.
Y también tenemos a Yuli, who is a friend also that I've known of her for quite some time now because of her pops. But we are here to talk. Today's episode is about the good old COVID-19, aka the China virus.
La
People
pinche
hate it
Rona,
when
la Rona.
people hate it when I call it the China virus,
La Rona. Yeah, the Rona.
the Rona. So these two, Celso and Yuli, obviously, along with myself, only Bart is the only strong fucking guy here. He's the only guy that has never tested positive for the Rona.
Never test us.
At least not that you know of.
Yeah.
It
No,
doesn't
no,
help that
I
you
did.
never fucking
No,
tested.
no. I did test. I've tested 5 times, 4 or 5 times. Wait, that's why I'm like, I remember I always say, well, I never got it. You always tell me, well, not that you know of. So not that I know of, I never had it, but I tested
But you did test
negative
4 times.
at least
4 or
4
5 times.
times. At least 4 times for sure.
Oh, man. You must have some very, very strong antibodies, my nigga. Porque estás pesado. This guy was at a party where everybody got it except for him.
I've been in a few situations. Wait.
When his mom came, right?
A few
I mean,
situations, yeah. Where,
a couple occasions, you were the only dude
Where-
that came out alive. I mean, not alive, but
see?
negative.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't even
so
do
right
that.
now when you said it, we're gonna crack some jokes. I'm like, man, I don't even
Already
know if
we
I can
started
crack
with the jokes.
jokes about this shit. This shit's too serious, bro.
Well, I think it's a serious topic, but I think a way around it, like everything, right? Like
Dude, I joke about it so
yeah,
much.
you have to kind of joke
so
about it a little
much.
bit.
I'm like, oh, back from the dead.
Yeah. So the very interesting stories, and we're gonna share the platform here with Celso and Yuli. They're gonna be the guys that are gonna be answering maybe some of our good/dumb, curious questions
I'm most
because
likely to
we've
be
never been in a coma, and both of them have been in a coma. Celso, you were in a coma for how long?
Exactly 3 weeks, I want to say.
3 weeks,
Yeah.
and Yuli
A month.
1 month. So these guys were in a they got the COVID back in I believe April. You guys said both
Yep.
of you guys.
That's right. Yeah.
So
April.
almost in the beginning, even though well, that's when they thought it started, right?
Right.
You know, but we were just kind of talking about how I think we're all under the same assumption that it started fucking before that, like late 19, early as 20. But you
Definitely
guys,
back
Yeah,
in
I-
November.
November of
Yeah,
19.
definitely.
November of 19, right? That's what I'm saying. I want to say
Back then,
that
you
it
don't
was-
know if you had the flu or it was
Yeah,
that.
there was people getting really sick, I guess, and they just didn't know it yet. You know?
Dude, my parents got back from Mexico sometime in February, and I picked them up, and they were fucking really, really bad. And I remember that when I dropped them off at their house, I called them the next day, and they were still in bed. So I figured, están más viejones, están cansados. I called them the day after. They were still in bed. I'm like, whoa, okay, this shit's not right. And but I mean, they ended up taking my mom to the hospital. They didn't say that she had COVID, porque pues entonces todavía they hadn't said it was. They diagnosed her with pneumonia, and that was that. Like, you know, she was good maybe a month later or so. Pero pues sí, it was right in the beginning of all this shit, and well, I'm happy that you guys are here to give us your side, porque when I talked a little bit with Celso, I really haven't talked too much to Yuli about this, but you know, both of you guys can chime in whenever. The crazy thing is the whole coma thing, right? Because if you guys got it in April, I'll start with you, Celso. So when you got it, how long did it take for you to fall into the coma? How did that? Talk to me about how did that work, or how did that went about?
Well, basically, it started with my mom gave it to me. We were in
Okay.
a small party. It was her birthday weekend, so we decided to bring we brought her over. So basically, she started coughing. We thought it was nothing major, but she came in with a mask. So I'm like, what's wrong with you? She's like, oh, tengo una tos. No, I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, just. She always stood away from us, so I don't even understand how she got it. But she gave it to my wife. After
Okay.
my wife, she gave my wife. We noticed that when my wife had it, she got tested. She tested positive. She came back. We took care of her. We were taking care of her. She was almost out of it when she left the water bottle in the living room. I'm thinking it was mine. I drank the shit.
Wow.
Within days, I want to say 3 days, I started with the symptoms. I started throwing up. I had my stomach ache. I had everything, the whole symptoms.
Everything.
I lost my taste, everything,
Lost
everything,
your
everything.
smell.
Yeah. Within like 5 days, the breathing started happening. Like, dude, I was like a fish without water, just gasping for
You're
air.
just panting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to say day 8 is when basically it was like a Sunday. I want to say when my wife saw me, she went to the living room. She's like, "Dude, you're fucking blue. We need to get you to the hospital." So she called the ambulance, and right away they're like, "Yeah, he's COVID positive, blah blah." Blah, but I don't know.
But by that day 8, how were like
24
did you,
hours.
Did you agree? Like, were you like, yeah, fuck, I can't move. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't.
definitely.
Okay.
Right there, they took me to the hospital. I was in McNeil over in Oak Park,
Yeah.
and yeah, within 24 hours, not even 24. I want to say 12. They took me in the afternoon, in the morning, 12 in the morning. They're like, "Dude, your body's not helping us. We need to put you in a ventilator." And I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" I'm like, "What is that?" And then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna put you to sleep." And like, what are the odds of me trying to wake up after? I'm like, "We can't tell. You're just gonna go on it. You want to call somebody or whatever?" So yeah, I called the wife and I called one of my compadres and I don't know what the fuck is this. I don't know. I'm confused as you are.
Right.
I'm going into this shit. If anything happens, watch my kids.
Yeah.
So he was like, "Fuck, dude, don't even tell me that." I'm like, "Dude, it's gonna happen. I don't know what's gonna happen, but it's gonna happen." So yeah, right there between 12 hours. It took 12 hours.
From when you went. Now, was there like did you ask like, was there another option or was it just
No,
fuck it? That's
no,
what
no,
it
no.
is.
Which is that there was no other options. They were like,
By that time, then had you already heard any of the like ventilator
Oh yeah,
stories?
it's all over the news. It was all
Yeah.
over the news. So you're like, oh okay. But I didn't since it didn't happen to you, and you always like, oh no, it's not gonna happen to me type of thing.
Yeah.
You don't look into it. But then when it's happening, you start reading into it, blah blah blah. So my wife learned like all the doctor lingo that she needed to learn because she was like, man, they keep telling me these words. I don't know what it is. I'm googling and I'm trying to understand what they're saying. We had to learn. We had to learn what was going on.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And they put you down.
and they put
pretty
me
much.
down. Yeah, right away.
You said 12 hours after you went to the
Yeah,
hospital.
yeah. Let's say
They
yeah.
put
They
you
took me in
down.
the morning, like
So
around.
then
midday.
you're after that you're in a coma for
Yep.
for 3 weeks or whatever.
That's right.
Holy shit, that's got to be crazy, especially for your wife. That they're talking to her.
Right.
She's learning all this stuff, and she can't even talk to you because
Right.
you're not there technically.
Right. Yeah, and remember back in the days, you couldn't even visit nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
had.
So you're
to-
alone.
Yeah, I was alone, completely alone. Even when you wake up, you're not talking to anybody, and then you can't even use your hands when you wake up. So you're trying to use your phone. Like it's hard.
You couldn't even talk to the nurses. They wouldn't go in if they didn't need to go in.
Right. Right.
God damn it.
They'll watch you from a window. They're watching you from a window. You're like, hey, is he okay? Yeah, he's fine. You just had to thumbs up,
Yeah.
and that's it. That's all the communication you would have.
And then, do you remember like the floor or where we were at? Was it like a COVID floor? Or was it? Just
Yeah, it was.
nothing
It
but
had
that?
to be a whole COVID floor.
It was.
Yeah, and then nurses would rotate. I remember that when I woke up. So they're like, "Oh, you're gonna have me for 2 days, and then you're gonna have another one for another 2 days, and another one for another 2 days, and blah blah." So they had a bunch of nurses. I met a lot of people during
Okay.
that time.
So that was your transition into the COVID, and how was it for you then, Yuli? Like, you got it in April as well.
Got it in April. So it started getting back in March.
That's when they started.
That's
Yeah.
when they started getting. They're like, oh, it's here. Places were shutting down. And it was literally March 15th, the last day I worked, because they laid us off. I was still in school. We went on, what was it? Not spring. Like Semana Santa for us. And it's usually a week, but then they're like, oh no, we're extending it for 2 weeks. Classes online. Oh, okay, cool. And when we were finally supposed to go back, they're like, "Oh no, it's just from school now. You guys can't come. I'm from home. You guys can't come in." I'm like, "All right." So I noticed every day my head would hurt, nauseous, lost my smell, my taste. Dude, me dio hasta chorro, let's be honest. I had everything. I would even start puking up just phlegm, white stuff out of my stomach.
Yeah, that's how my mom
Hasta
was. My mom
brown
was
stuff.
like
And
that.
I'm like, fuck, is that blood? Y And I remember I couldn't even pay attention to online class. I would just have to record it. Me echaba like 2 Tylenol because I had fevers all the time. I had to sleep it off. I would wake up empapada de sweat. I closed my room. Luckily, my room was downstairs, so I wasn't close to like my dad or grandparents. I couldn't even let my dogs in because según decían that they could carry it. They can't get it, but they'll
Yeah.
carry it. And then
Yeah.
I was
Spread
like,
it.
fuck, I don't want to get, anybody else sick. And it just got worse and worse until I couldn't breathe. Like, let's say, like, we're from where you guys are sitting to me, that was my room to the bathroom door. I would get to the toilet and just be exhausted. I couldn't breathe.
Yeah, I crawled. I crawled to the bathroom
Really?
my last day.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it gets like that. And I'm like,
De cansancio.
No, de que ya, ya
couldn't
tu
breathe.
cuerpo does not
your
respond to
lungs,
you.
you're just
Yeah.
so exhausted. You feel like you're going to just fall. And you're like, what the hell?
Holy shit.
Haz de cuenta you just ran a damn marathon. Not even jogged, ran. And you're like, what the hell? And you're just gasping for air. And I remember the last day que ya no me aguanté was April 24th. It was like 8 p.m. I'm trying to do an assignment and I'm like, fuck, even typing and sitting up me cansaba. So I text my dad. I'm like, hey, after I'm done with this assignment, I might need you to take me to the hospital. And he's like, ¿Cómo que when you're done? Pues te llevo ahorita. And I'm like, nah, I need this A.
Education first.
I'm like, nah, let me just finish. He's like, no, estás loca. I'm like, all right, let me just message my teachers, let them know that I'm not going to turn it in and I'm not going to be attending class for a bit. He's like, no, I'll take you now. I'm like, all right, cool. So I closed it up, everything. It's literally from where my room is to like upstairs to the first floor to get out to the street. It's like 7 stairs. I made it up, and as soon as I made it up, I just had to throw myself to the couch, and I was like, screw the plan. You're not taking me. Call an ambulance. I need oxygen
shit.
now. Yeah, I felt it right away. I was like, oh my God. The paramedics got there right away. They didn't even want to go in the house, it was just so bad, you know?
have to walk out. When you get there,
Yeah.
they get all suited up and they're like, can you step to us?
Yep.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
won't even go in the house. I think they kind of asked if I could walk, and I was like, no, dude, you're going to have to get me off this damn couch. I can't get up.
Yeah.
And I want to say the only person there was the 2 paramedics, me and my dad. Everybody else was like in their room. The dogs were even put away. They just did not want any contact with me, or I told them, just stay away. And they first took me there to McNeil. But they didn't have room for me in the ICU. So at first, they would only admit you if you were like really low on oxygen or, anything breathing type. But it was just fever. You pretty much had to sweat it off at home. But since, me being diabetic, I was also going into like ketoacidosis. Basically, that's when there's so much damn sugar in your blood that your blood is like toxic and pues te está matando and your organs start shutting down. So I had that too.
Holy shit.
So they're like, all right, we're going to have to put you in the ICU. They didn't have room for me there in McNeil, so I had to be transported to Loyola and Maywood,
Yeah.
which I was totally fine with because me doing clinicals in school, that's where I would go and, practice taking x-rays and stuff. So I think it was like the second night, I saw like some other techs there that would work while I was in the program. I'm like, oh, hey. And they're like, oh, we're here to take a chest x-ray. I'm like, all right, cool. So like, I me fui para levantar and I couldn't. They had to grab me each by one arm and like pull me up. And I was like, damn, because I would do that to the patients too, or I would go in and
Yeah.
take the x-ray of the patients in comas too. So I had seen it. I'm already I used to seeing people in comas or with tubes coming out of their neck and stuff like that. I'm used to it. Or hay unos que están entubados, but they're still awake and they'll look at you, but they can't talk. So, we'll have to like get under them and be like, it's okay. Or they'll start kicking while they're in coma. It's crazy. So I was used to it and I'm just being like, oh, damn, I feel like a patient, So I went in April 24th. And the last day I remember, and barely, was April 29th. I have pictures from April 29th to May 2nd, pictures, texts that I don't remember. I don't remember taking pictures, sending out these messages, making phone calls. The only reason I remember April 29th because it was my anniversary. Y me llegaron flores from my boyfriend. The nurse is like, oh, look, trying to make me feel better. And I was like, ponlos allá en la esquina.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I don't care. My room no tenía baño, and I had like a commode, like a little seat to go to the bathroom in.
Yeah.
Literally from my seat to the commode, I was out of breath. My oxygen would drop to like the 80s, and
Holy
you have to be
shit.
in the, high 90s or 100.
Yeah.
And I had to wear a mask. Not only did I have to wear like a nasal tube, but I had to wear a big mask over that too, because my oxygen would go down a lot. At one point, they told me, "Oh, sleep on your stomach. It'll take pressure off your lungs." No, I went there in 5 minutes. It's uncomfortable. I feel like I was suffocating.
Yeah.
Even now, I can't sleep on my stomach. I feel like como que me estoy ahogando. And supposedly te tiene que ayudar eso. And I'm like, mm-mm. So it was early. What was it? Like 8 o'clock on May 2nd. And I only know this from going back in my messages that I called my mom, but she said que she couldn't understand me because I was just so out of breath. So I text her just saying, can't talk, going down, let my dad know. And that's it. She tried to call me. 8 in the morning. I was put on a ventilator, and they had called her, I want to say like 7:30, to let her know, like, hey, we're not really calling for your permission, but we're kind of letting you know, like, she needs to be intubated,
I was just gonna ask you, how does that work? Do they have to get a
So
consent?
I was so out of it, and mind you, I'm 24. I don't need consent.
Right.
I was just so out of it that she became my advocate. So
Okay.
I wasn't understanding things anymore. I was hallucinating. I don't remember anything. I
Yeah.
don't remember when I had like right here, like in my groin area, I had 2 tubes in there. I don't remember. I would get what are called midline PICC lines, which is like an IV, but it's like this long of a clear tube
You got that too, Celso?
that they
Yeah.
put it
I
in,
got it.
and
I got it
it's
here too.
In your
it's
neck?
so
Yeah.
long. And they basically told her, hey, we're not asking you for permission. We're basically letting you know this needs to happen. Just say yes. Say the yes. And she's like, I don't know. And they're like, come on, we need an answer now. So she, basically blurted out yes. And as soon as she hung up, she dice que she was kind of like, fuck, did I make a good decision? What if by me doing this, she's dying? Because in ese entonces, one of my uncles from her side, her brother, had it too, and the doctor said, "Don't ever go on a ventilator. It's a rare chance that you come off of it."
Yeah. That's all you kept hearing.
Yeah, that ventilators were not good. Once you're on it, you're done.
Yep.
So that's why she was like, "Fuck, did I do the right thing?" And it wasn't until like May 29th that I kind of knew where I was. I was out of the coma.
A month later.
Basically a month later. But during that intubation, it was May 2nd, and within the hour, my lungs gave out on me. So I died. That was the first time I did actually die. But
So you did die.
yes, but they never told my mom until later on. So at that point, it became on a ventilator, monitoring her, taking pressure off her lungs too. She's on life support.
Yeah.
And from 1 minute to another, my lungs would work. And this happened 5 times where something would just shut off and keep coming.
Yeah, right.
And my mom would tell my dad, but like my dad wouldn't understand, and it's hard to translate. I mean, my mom's born here, right, from Hispanic parents, but it's hard to translate like those medical terms
Yeah.
in English to Spanish. So she didn't know how to tell my dad, and maybe that's where the miscommunication was. But within that month of me being in a coma, I developed a blood clot. I want to say it was in my right leg. So that being serious, they had to take me to surgery. I want to say the day before I was supposed to go in, the blood clot magically disappeared.
Wow.
So nurses and doctors are like, that doesn't happen. So they honestly, they had no medical words. They didn't know how to explain it medically.
Just disappeared.
They just disappeared, and they say, it's a miracle. But because of that blood clot, I did have to be on blood thinners just to keep it on the safe side and to prevent me from getting one. So besides the blood clot, I had bilateral lung pneumonia, so in both lungs. My kidneys were failing. I had pneumothoracic, which is basically air in your lung and making it hard to breathe. Lungs collapsing. What else? My left leg was damaged, so I couldn't control it. So at one point, I had to wear a boot while being in the hospital. They notice because they'll do tests on you when you're in a coma. I don't know if you're aware. They told you that, but they'll go around, doing certain tests to make sure you still got full function and your
Reflexes
reflexes and
whatnot.
all that good stuff. And they noticed it was my left leg. But while I was in coma, like, it got to a point where I had to eventually. Oh, my mom, well, her being my advocate, she read somewhere about the remdesivir. I don't think it was approved yet, but she told doctor, hey, as soon as you guys get it in, just put it on the list. Put it on the list.
What is it again? I'm sorry.
Remdesivir, so it's a medication they use to kind of treat the symptoms, help you
Okay.
out.
I think that that medicine it helped cure Ebola, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I remember
And they thought that
hearing
would help
about
COVID.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
it helped me, so I was like,
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, basically anything they did to me was an experiment. They
Yeah,
didn't know
everything was
if it was
test.
going to be
Right.
good or not. So it was
And
a 50-50
They were just throwing
chance.
everything at you
Yeah.
guys.
Well,
Yep.
my wife had to sign a thing just to say, hey, you know what, you realize this is going to be a test, so
Right.
it's a 50-50 that he might make it or not.
50-50, yeah.
So if he's gonna be if it works, it works. If
So
it
you got
doesn't,
the same one.
Yeah.
Same medication.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shit.
so there at the hospital, the doctor was able to bump me up because of my age. And she told my mom, she's like, you know what, we got her because she literally told my mom she's one of us, she's one of her own because I was a student there. And so when it came to the nurses and they were super nice. The techs there knew me, so it was nice to see a friendly face. But besides the remdesivir, I had to be like on a even more powerful oxygen machine, not the one you just like plug out of the wall or the tank.
Yeah.
This was like a whole ass cylinder too. Parecía como las máquinas de gas from Mexico, the big tanks and stuff.
Cuando va pasando la troca de los tanques.
Yep. So entraron con eso, and that thing would blow so much oxygen, like really hard in my nose. I would get nosebleeds.
Oh,
So besides that, I would get nosebleeds, and I'm calling the nurse, and I'm like, dude. And then it got to one point where, before I was actually in the coma, they cut me off from eating right away because I would have to take off my mask to eat. So
Okay.
when I would eat, taking off my mask would lower my oxygen, and they're like, "You're done. You can't eat." So about a week and a half prior to going to the hospital, ya no estaba comiendo. I would throw everything up. Me daba asco. I didn't have appetite, no taste. Plus that whole about a week or so in the hospital, still didn't eat. So I was freaking starving. Y ya también estando in the coma, I had to go on what's called ECMO. Basically, te meten un tubo por el neck. They stick it in by like your leg area, kind of like where the groin is. Te saca tu sangre, puts it in a machine, puts it back in your body. So from my lungs, collapsing and not working, your lungs, besides helping you breathe, pues te ayudan a limpiar la sangre, circulate through your body. My lungs couldn't do it. So that's why I had to.
That's what that was
That's
for.
what I had to do. So cuando I kind of started realizing where I was, what was going on with me, I no entendía why I had all these like really big scars, pero tubes, thick tube down my leg, 2 of them, wires on my stomach, my hands. But I looked like a junkie de tantos piquetes que me metían. It looked disgusting. My skin was even peeling from dead skin. My nails, I cannot do nails. Dude, parecía que I had let them grow forever. Tenía uñas. I was like, what the hell is this?
I mean, my boy Celso had a beard.
Yeah.
Time I had a bigote. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? All right.
Looked in the mirror.
I
Didn't
see you.
Didn't even recognize.
Yeah, I remember seeing Celso. I'm like, what the fuck?
No, espérate. I had this doctor y pues me daba pena con él. I was like, oh, hey. Y ya when I finally had enough strength to kind of sit up, and I'm like, what the fuck? My legs are super hairy. How come they didn't shave my legs? Yeah,
Wow.
like you wake up and you're like, what the fuck? But going back to like those big tubes, that
Yeah.
ECMO tube cannot move. It's taking out your blood. Te desconectas, pues te desangras,
Yeah, yeah.
So what they do is they stitch the tube all down my body para que no se moviera. So I'm like, oh, that's what this tube is. Because yo tenía lines like on the tube. I see like the scar. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Yeah, I started asking around, and they would stitch it to make sure it wouldn't move or come out.
Damn.
So literally starting from like my right shoulder all the way down past my hip, I still have the tube marking on my stomach because I had to be sometimes. Well, for the whole month that I was in the coma, I had to be prone, which basically is on your stomach for 16 hours a day. So llegaba un equipo como de 8. Mind you, I have wires, tubes everywhere. And 8 people at the same time had to carefully flip me on over to my stomach
Without
to relieve
moving these
the
tubes.
Yeah.
Like,
Sheesh.
trying to keep everything
Basically
in
a turkey,
place.
bro, just spinning,
Yeah.
spinning.
Yeah, eso, and then they had to be careful with the neck. I had the tube on my right side, so they had to be careful to always turn me that way. So when I woke up, imagínate, I was stiff. I was like, what the fuck? No podía ni levantar bien, nothing. I had no core strength. Estaba bien flaca. My fucking legs looked like little hot dogs. Estaban bien flaquitas. I had chicken legs. No muscle. My wrist, I was like, these are not my wrists. My ankles. I was like, what happened to my cankles? You know, I'm like,
Was it something
bien
like,
flaca.
was it something where you're just looking at yourself and you're like,
Oh,
like
I
a different
was-
body totally?
Dude,
right?
I was in bed y doblaba las rodillas, and I was like, these are not my legs.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
I just want to say real quick, it sucks that we don't have video right now because while they're both telling these stories, they're both like, they know exactly what each other is talking about
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
both went through it, man. So
Yeah. So imagine I was like 200 pounds before I went in. I got out weighing 150.
Yeah.
Right now, my weight back was 170. I haven't gone back to 200.
yeah, I
You know,
went
so
in.
all that weight I lost. But your legs,
Yeah,
yeah, she's
you're
right.
just
Your legs
there.
are like, fuck.
Yeah, y luego te meten, I had an NG tube. Sí, por ahí te daban like your nutrients, stuff to eat. But oh, when I finally woke up from the coma, that thing would hurt my stomach. I was like, ugh. But for me, once they started realizing, okay, all these treatments are working, she's improving, they started taking me off little by little, one thing at a time. So I think that's when I started hallucinating, and I thought I was fucking kidnapped. Someone took my ass. We went to Dubai, but somebody drugged me. And no
I don't
one,
mean like I love it, but I love it because we're gonna get to Celso as well right now because
there's
that's a
a
big
lot
part.
of stuff where you're like,
Yeah.
people
Go-
don't
go ahead,
think
keep going.
people don't think that, and I'm like,
And
dude.
this is when? This is now after that you're awake.
So this
and
is
stuff.
once I start waking up from a coma.
So
doctor, yeah,
I'm
ahead.
gonna cut you off a little
Yeah.
bit just because I don't want to get
We're
there
like
yet.
jumping up everywhere
Yeah.
too.
So, now I want to go into the part. We are gonna come back to this. Don't let me forget, compa. I want to go into the part where you guys are in the coma because I know Celso had mentioned to me that he remembers some stuff while in coma.
Really?
But I don't know if you do. But we'll go with Celso real quick, just so he can talk to us about what you remember. Because I know right away with the Cascabel guys. Celso, by the way, is a new lead singer to Conjunto Cascabel now. And we right away, uno de güey, we're guys, I guess, right? Güey, y si escuchabas todo o si, like the curiosity question.
No, a mí me preguntaban cada rato eso.
Oh,
and I'm
yeah,
like,
there you go.
"What?"
And then when he started saying like, oh yeah, bro. And then I'm like, bro, you want to come on the pod?
Yeah.
Because I just thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
Uno no sabe, like this coma thing. And,
Yeah.
Pues
and-
hace pensar all these people who have family members who are in comas for different reasons.
Right.
Y están con el, should we disconnect them? Should we not? What if they're listening to us, but
Right.
they can't connect?
So
That's
I know
how
there
our
was,
families were. I don't know about you,
Yeah.
but así estaban.
I mean, I know that when you were in the coma, you did say that you do remember some things, right?
Yeah, basically
lot of
everything.
it.
A lot of it. A
Or
lot
most of
I
it.
want to say 80% of it. I remember
See,
everything.
that's nuts, bro.
80% of it till the moment I woke up. Even when I feel like when I was transported from McNeil to Loyola on Maywood, I remember the trip. I felt the trip, but I was already out.
Let me ask you, what floor were you on?
4th, I want to say.
I was too.
Wow. That's awesome.
Watch
So,
us
yeah.
be on the same one where there
Watch
was only
it.
like 10 of us.
Yeah. So I remember the first when the transport. I told my wife, I'm like, hey, was it raining that day? She's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, I thought it was on a boat being transported.
But you were out already.
I was already out.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? I'm like, and I felt the rain in my face. It's like,
Oh,
no fucking
shit.
way. I'm like, dude, I felt the rain in my face. I was on a boat, and one of your nephews was there, and he was taking care of me. And then
On
all of a
this boat.
sudden, on this boat,
Right.
we docked into the shore, I want to say, and all of a sudden, this kid disappears because he was in the edge of my bed.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, his name is Anthony. I'm like, Anthony, ya llegamos. Y ya no se movía el sweater because he had a hoodie on. So I'm like, Anthony. So I kicked him. I managed to kick him, and the sweater falls. I'm like, what the fuck? And I started crying. I'm like, Anthony, don't leave me, bro. Y ya no lo vi. And then I don't know, I guess I fell asleep again.
Yeah.
And then I remember being kidnapped. Supuestamente they were going to the hospital to kill me. So in that same dream, I woke up again in the boat, and then me metieron en un cuartito, like, yeah, they're here to look for you. And I would hear gunshots and shit. It's like, yeah, we're gonna keep you here. Don't worry about it. You're gonna be safe. There's a lot of police out there. And I would hear like the news and shit. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And it was just like on and off thing. I would fall back asleep because okay, everything settled down. I'm gonna take a nap, and then I would wake up somewhere else.
And another dream.
And another dream.
Because that's what really caught my attention when you were saying that it was like a never-ending dream.
Yeah. It was like,
you fall asleep.
I would die or fall asleep.
Yeah.
That
And how
was-
many times, to your recollection, did you die? Because I know you did tell me that you died.
Like 30, 40 times, if that.
Wow.
Yeah, if that. It was like little short stories, and I would die, and then fuck.
Because I know that you mentioned a couple of them, like Tino singing, right?
Well,
Ti-
en esa ocasión, ya estaba en el hospital. I saw my parents signing. They were giving paperwork to. Yeah,
That was your dream, right?
That was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Estaban dando paperwork, yeah, to give the body over. Y I remember all my friends being out in the parking lot, and I remember like the parking lot. You know, Loyola's huge. And
Were you
I-
seeing it like eagle view, como de arriba abajo kind of thing?
No, actually, it was like my body there, like
Uh-huh.
in front of me, and I was against the wall, but I was looking at a clock at the same time.
Okay.
So I would see them, all of them, just drinking. They were having a good time. And then one of my uncles is like, "No lloren, you know, este cabrón le gustaba el party, le gustaba el desmadre.
Yeah.
Échense y que toque la banda." Then I see mi compa Tino.
Tino, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like,
Shout out,
"Que,
shout
que,
out,
go ahead, go
compa Tino."
ahead. Denle a mi primo," because we call each other primo. Like, "Dale a mi primo que toque la banda," y empieza la pinche banda. And I'm like, fuck. And then me against the wall, I'm like, I didn't make it. Y
Yeah.
así se siente. And then I would just stay there, like, cry my ass off because I'm like, fuck. Look at the time. And I would see time just fucking fly.
You were seeing the time
Yeah,
go.
you were
Okay.
yeah. So I'm like, fuck. And then again, it was just fall asleep.
Okay.
And I remember that dream because it happened to me 3 times, and I kept waking up en ese lado de donde estaban esperando ya para sacarme del hospital. So I was like, fuck. And then one time, my wife, I woke up to it, and then my wife's like, "You need to get off this bed. They're looking for you, and I need you to get off this bed." I'm like, okay. And then somehow I landed back in my body. Like, I started moving around. I'm like, I need to get the fuck out of here. I would call the nurses, like, "Nurse, like, I need to get out." He's like, "Yeah, hold on." Pero como que me ignoraban. I'm like, "Yeah, hold on." I'm like, "You fucking bitch, I need to get out. They're looking for me." like I was
It's
mad.
funny you say that because I ran into a nurse. I'm like, "Oh, did you have this patient? Oh, it's you." And I'm like, "Yeah, you were mean to me." I'm like, "Oh my God,
Yeah,
why?"
yeah.
She's like,
They
"You,
had to
you called
strain
me
me
a
down.
bitch because I wouldn't give you water."
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
dude.
"I'm
You wake up
sorry."
super thirsty.
Yeah.
You and nomás te dan probaditas. They won't let you drink water.
Ah,
They're
Would
like,
they swab your mouth?
yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
it's like this sponge. A mí me lo hacían, but I would.
I was stuck
Suck
on
me
it.
too. y me decían así, like,
Like,
no,
no, let go,
let it go,
You
let
gotta
it
let
go.
go. I'm like, no, I'm thirsty as shit.
Pero es,
Fuck you, bitch.
pero es because I mean,
Wow.
obviously we weren't aware, pero because of the
Fuck,
intubation,
Yeah.
it messed with our sorry, I
Esophagus.
keep wanna say like really medical terms.
that's fine. We're not doctors, but we
Go Google.
we say it at Red Roof Inn.
Grey's Anatomy no vas. No, porque it's because I'm at school and I gotta be over here like
Tú échale, neta.
ready. It would go down. It would, instead of going down our throat into our stomach, it goes to our lungs and we start choking. Por eso
Yeah.
no nos daban agua. And I didn't understand that. So
You just wanted water.
yeah.
And
So-
I would curse the
yeah.
nurses out, and they would do like, "Man, dude, you're like, you're bad." I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like, you're bad because you curse the shit out of us." I'm like, "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Like, what did I do?" It's like, "We're not gonna tell you. Just forget it.
I'm sorry. Give me some fucking water.
Give me some fucking water." Dude, de ahí,
Wow.
I remember me decían, "I don't want nothing. I don't want food." You know, like, "Yo, you need food." You know, like, "No, I just want water." Me traían jarras de agua ya when I was able to drink. Jarras de agua, and I'm like, "I want them cold as shit. Like, give me one jarra de ice and fucking water." And just, wow, dude, me la acababa. And they're like, "You need to eat, otherwise you can't leave." I'm like, "Oh, fuck. Let me eat. Bring whatever. I don't give a shit. Just feed me. I want to leave."
No, yo al contrario, no me dejaban tragar because I would choke. And I was like, I don't care. And I would sneak food.
Give me this fucking Whopper.
Yeah, well, yeah, because you know you have a tooth down your
Pizza.
throat, so it's really hard to swallow.
Se te hincha.
Yeah, so it's,
Did you remember anything, Yuli, while in coma, or no?
No.
Was it just a straight out blackout for you?
I don't remember, but there was times where like the nurses would tell me, this is from what I know from my family members, more my mom, that when the nurses would go in, check on me, that I would twitch, or and I have this thing where if I'm sleeping on the bed, I always have to have like my foot hanging. So even in my hospital bed, that I kept kicking my foot off the bed.
Shit.
So they would put it back, and they would joke around and be like, don't do it again. And I would do it. Como que like I would hear them. But I don't remember anything. They said like when my vitals were acting up, either my blood pressure too high, too low, whatever it was. I guess they had told my mom, and they're like, oh, call us or something, let us so she could hear our voice. And que me ponían el teléfono, and then you would see my numbers get back to normal, improve.
shit.
But I don't remember.
Yeah,
No me
you don't
acuerdo
remember that.
nada.
Yeah.
And no me recuerdo, this is when I was coming off medications or during. I want to say during, que decían que I would randomly raise my hand up and then drop it. Or se me abrían los ojos and they're like, Yuli, Yuli. But I wouldn't react and I would close it. Kicking the leg, just kind of twitching and stuff like that. Or they would say, you know what they did at one point? They said, squeeze my hand. So I would squeeze it. I don't remember. It wasn't until I started getting off the medication that they used to like knock you out. It's because they put you in a coma to be asleep, but then they also give you medication so you won't be freaking kicking, and because your body naturally will have reflexes. So once they started lifting the medication, same thing. I started hallucinating. I thought I was kidnapped, and my family went to like, I want to say it was Dubai or something, but that my grandpa was there from my mom's side.
She's like, they just
Puro pinche
wanted
Taliban.
8 billion for my life. Yeah.
And I remember my grandpa being there from my mom's side. And ya ahorita como que I'm like, what the fuck? I should have known that wasn't real. He can't travel, I'm like,
Yeah.
he can't go out. I'm like, I should have known it was false. But then I remember that I went to like this bar and somebody spiked my drink where I became paralyzed from the waist down.
Oh shit.
So I couldn't like get up. My torso was weak. But I think this all goes hand in hand to when I started waking up from the coma and I had no strength. Because once you're laying down, según dicen, every day that you're just laying down is like 3 months of not doing shit or laying down, something like that, they said. So for me being a month straight, I lost so much weight. I had no muscle. I couldn't stand nothing. I didn't have strength to lift my arm, move, or anything. I went in weighing like 180. I came out weighing 142. And then once they started lifting off the medication, the hallucinations started. So I thought I was kidnapped. And because of that, todos los tubos que tenía en la nariz and el cuello, I started ripping them out. So that's why I
shit.
got scars on my cheek, on my lip. I think I ripped out the nose one like a good 10 times.
What?
And I remember clearly when the nurses would come in and have to stick it back in. But I remember it weird. Like I could literally physically, haz de cuenta, at the end of the tube, there was a camera and I could see it going in the inside of my head and the feeling. And I don't know if you were awake during this, but they say when they put up the tube, you kind of have to like go, kind of like sniff in. And I remember doing that, but because I would have nosebleeds and all the scarring from me ripping it out, pues ya me dolía mucho. And I just kept ripping it out, and they would call my mom. My mom would call in like I think twice a day, morning, afternoon, when the nurses would switch and ask about a report. And they're like, oh, she's good. She ripped out. She was on the phone one day with the nurse, and the nurse could see my room through a window. And she's like, oh, she's good. I see her right now. Está bien. She did rip out her tube earlier, but oh my gosh, she's ripping it out again. I gotta go. Wow. But mind you, because I was hallucinating, they had to tie me. I was strapped.
Yeah.
Pero yo me salía.
I was strapped.
Yeah, you
Me
remember you said
salía
that.
because you go into such a like fight or flight mode where going back to where I thought I was hallucinated, over there me metieron a un hospital, but they would purposely drug me to make me sick, and then they would tell my family, oh, she's sick, she can't be transported right now, blah, blah, blah.
That's crazy.
But I had dreams that they would cut part of my skin,
I would see them
take
laugh,
it.
laugh at you like,
Oh, yeah.
I'll put them back to sleep.
Yep,
And
or
they're laughing. I'm like, what the fuck you, man? Like,
Yeah.
I will go crazy. And I'll start like kicking and shit because I ripped this tube out. And that's why I messed up my elbow. So I had to operate this because I messed up this whole side of my hand. So because of the whole kicking and shit, because I used to see them, I'm like, don't worry, just put him back to sleep. He's kicking again. Put him back to sleep. And I would see them laugh. I'm like, these motherfuckers, dude, they're trying to kill me.
Yeah, así estaba yo que somehow in my dreams or hallucinations, I would somehow get a hold of my mom or my family, be like, they have me here. You need to come get me. But then it's like at one point it was that situation, me being kidnapped overseas, I needed help, to another time where it's like I was in a hospital bed. But every time I would close my eyes, it was a new scene. I was a different person. One day I was like una morena who was pregnant. The next day I was like this old lady. And it kept going and going, and I kept trying to escape, and I couldn't. And every time I was almost close to escaping, they would
Re-drug you? Or
they
what?
would drug me, catch me. But then that's not even the worst part. I would have another dream, same thing, kidnapped. We went to like a cruise ship. And on there, same thing, I got drugged. And the people who owned the boat took us up to like a certain floor, so that other customers, guys, like older guys con dinero, would go up and say, oh, I want that one, and I want to do this fantasy with her y esto.
Oh,
So
shit.
yo soñaba that I was forced to do sexual things, that que me violaban. It was bad. So now I start remembering stuff, and I'm like, oh shit, you know. So I was dreaming like 3 to 4 different scenarios. 5 actually, porque luego había otra where I kept getting shot. And I kept coming back, not back to life, but kept coming back to my uncle and saying, this is who it was, go after them. And turns out I was the wrong person, and it would restart. It would restart again.
Wow.
Oh, this is the person who did it. And then other times it would be, I would be in the hospital, and I would hear like right now we were saying like you would hear your family pa que lloran. I would hear my family having parties, and I'm like, what the fuck? How come they're not helping me get up, and why am I not invited? So every day it was something where, you know, ripping out tubes or just kicking, fighting the nurses. So once I started waking up more and more, I would kind of call my family, but I would call them muy apenas, and they couldn't hear me. My mom, she couldn't understand me. My voice was like even lower than a whisper. The nurses wouldn't hear me sometimes, and I had to hit the bed and be like, if I was cold, tenía que temblar so they would understand me. And
it's not like you can write, because you guys are too weak to write at that
we're
point.
too weak,
Yeah.
and I was fucking strapped on because I was
Right,
crazy.
right.
So
That's crazy.
I mean, it got to the point where it was just from me being into straps like handcuffs, to they would put like mitts on me
Oh, so you
to
won't
prevent
damage yourself.
damage and.
Yeah.
Pero es que estoy bien cabrona. I would cuando me quitaba los mitts, I remember putting my hand in but making a fist so it could fit looser. So when I finally extended my hand, I had more room to wiggle out. And I would do the same thing with the other one, and the nurses wouldn't get how I kept getting out. So como I had no torso strength, I no me podía levantar, so I had to like scooch very low. Y con los dientes, I would try biting the strap. And una vez sí logré.
Holy shit.
And right away, the nurse came in, and I was like, fuck. Y como dices tú, the nurses change. So a unas, I'm like, esta sí la puedo hacer mensa.
Yeah.
And this one,
según
she
yo tenía
knows
una
me.
morenita que iba a ser mensa. I'm like, hey, I'll give you $500 if you let me go.
Stop
Así,
it.
yeah, bro.
Yeah.
And just let me go. Please, just let me go. Like, I see, I'm like, dude, whatever you want, just let me fucking go.
O llegaba unas, and I'm like, come on, you take the straps off. I promise I won't rip out my tubes.
Uh-huh.
And in my mind, it's like, all right, I'm going to escape. I can't walk. I can't physically get up. But if I scoot down enough where like the feet are, it's open. Me aviento al pinche piso, and I'll leave somehow. I'll crawl. Or como dices tú.
I didn't know I couldn't walk. That was my thing. I thought I could run.
Yeah, you're like, fuck it. As soon as I get
Yeah,
down
I
from
was
this
like,
bed,
dude,
I'm gonna
you
run.
break me free, I'm out.
No,
I'm running out.
I knew I couldn't get up. And it's funny because in my dreams where like these old guys would come and pick out what type of like game sexual fantasy they wanted. Like I was in that scenario, I kind of figured out where like, all right, if I kick this, agarro la pinche lámpara and I'll hit him and I'll kill his ass and I could escape. Pero no me podía levantar from like the scene. So
Yeah.
that was me actually feeling that I couldn't get up, you know. But I was just on these crazy medications that I was hallucinating.
She was
John
fucking
Wick. She
sweet.
was picturing
bro.
the
¿Cuáles
movie
pinches?
before
Dude,
she was
y luego
bleeding
dices
out.
como el agua, you're just so freaking thirsty que the bathroom was right in front of me. Es que ahí agarraban agua to mix it with my medicine because I couldn't eat back then. And I would see it. I'm like, all right, me tiro, and I could just crawl.
want the water.
Pongo la mano, and, you know. And I'm like, y siempre venían. And I remember one nurse, como que she had enough of me, and she grabbed my leg. She's like, yeah, stop trying to get off already. And I was just like, you bitch. But I would call my family, no me entendían, and I would tell them, transfer. And they're like, what? Transfer. And they're like, what do you mean? Yeah, they have me at this place. Because at one point I thought I was, what's this place right here on Cermak in Harlem? There's like all these buildings. And there's like there's something about Rush outpatient, whatever it is.
Oh, it's a clinic.
It's a
It's a
clinic
clinic,
type
yeah.
thing, yeah.
Okay.
So for some reason, yo pensé que estaba allí, but it was like a veterinarian place. So I'm like, why am I in a hospital with all these animals? And then it was so many different situations where at one point, regresé to being like a month-year-old, a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, but I still had my mentality of 24-year-old. Back then, I had just, I think I was 22 and turned 23 in the hospital. But I still had my mentality, and I would try to communicate with people like, hey, it's me, it's Yuli, you know, or I would see myself inside like someone else's body. At one point, I saw myself inside my grandma's body, pero ya de viejita, like in hospice. But I was trying to communicate with people saying, no, it's me, don't kill me, don't let me die. Y por poco lo logré to communicate with someone, but then someone like distracted them and, you know. But I couldn't eat right away either. Drink, I would choke. The water would go down the wrong tube. So every day, not every day, every 2 to 3 days, a speech therapist venía con like applesauce, juice, or like thicker nectar, and would test me, which each one. As soon as I started coughing, sorry, you didn't pass. And another day, another week without eating. Tenía una hambre.
Yeah.
And then no water. So había some nurses where you could get away with, just swallow my mouth. And they're like, no, you can't be doing that. O otras, I would trick them, be like, no, I could have ice chips. Y a veces unas were okay with it, you know? Because it's little amounts, you're just chewing it. Because se secaba bien feo la boca.
And your lips would be all chapped up. Like, oh, you look, dude, you look like a monster, dude.
So when you guys are, obviously, well, Celso remembers a lot of the stories, and I mean, is there other interesting scenarios while you were in the coma that you can remember that were or that are very memorable to you?
But they all are, man, because they all felt so vivid.
Yeah.
You know, I remember the first few ones. I was in a clinic somewhere in the north side near some railroad tracks. Supuestamente I had died already, but I wasn't. I just pretended I was dead para que me tiraran el cuerpo. Ajá. So they're like, all right, he's gone. So you will hear the freight train. They're like, oh, the freight train's coming. And I'm like, what happens when the freight train's here? They're like, dude, te van a aventar tu... Otro patient que estaba ahí conmigo, they're like, te van a aventar tu cuerpo en los coals, because there's coals in there, y están prendidos. So you're going to die. I'm like, what? They're like, yo me voy a aguantar. I'll go in the coals, I don't care. Dice, pero te vas a morir. I'm like, no, I'll jump out as soon as I'm in the coals. Y sure enough, the fucking freight train llegó, and I will feel it. I will feel the heat. I'm like, fuck. And then they're like, yeah, just let him go. Y ya. Ahí llegué. Supuestamente ese freight train me morí, pero llegué en el freight train ya con los coals apagados y estaba en México.
Ah, la madre.
I was like, what the fuck? All right, I made it. Pero estaba quemado.
Yeah.
Estaba todo quemado. I was like, fuck. All right, fuck it, I made it.
Fuck it, I made it, but I'm all
Yeah.
burnt.
But then I died over there. Yeah, I died. Yeah, y fíjate, it was funny as shit because I died.
Made it all the way just to not make it.
So I go supuestamente to my pueblo, and I'm trying to look for my dad. I'm like, where's my dad? So I call my mom. I'm like, ma, estoy en México. Dice, tu papá te fue a buscar. Te fue a buscar medicinas allá para que te cures. Allá está, búscalo. I'm like, all right, cool. So I hear my dad, y estaba supuestamente arreglando, because my dad works in construction. So andaba arreglando un techo. So I see my dad, I'm like, Papa, I'm here. He's like, ¿qué? Celso. And he falls off. So I'm like, I cried. I'm like, Pa. So I run up, y me caigo yo también.
Valiendo.
So
madre.
ahí con mi dad, and I remember just looking at my dad, like, dying in front of me. But I was dying with him, too.
Right.
So I was like, fuck. And I woke up somewhere else.
That's crazy, man. And this is all the heavy ass medicine, right? That you guys
That's
are on.
exactly what I was
Yeah.
about to say.
Yeah.
Like, just
Yeah, this medicine
causing
is...
dreams that
Yeah,
like
bro.
over and over.
But it's crazy
and
how
over
we have
again.
similar dreams, though.
Yeah,
The
I
boat-
think
the
that's
boat-
crazy as
That's
shit.
crazy. The boat,
The
the,
boat.
The kidnapping.
The kidnapping, yeah.
swearing at these nurses.
Sorry,
Cursing the
nurses
nurses out. Yeah.
fucking planning out your escape.
Yeah.
Now, also, I remember, Celso, you were telling me that when you finally did wake up from the coma, that you thought it was another dream.
Yeah. Yeah, I was stuck like that for like
Which I think is fucking crazy as
3
well.
days. Pero ahí como que me quedé quieto. I was like, yeah, I'm done. Me van a matar, que me maten. I don't give a shit.
At that
And-
particular,
yeah.
ya cuando te habías despertado.
You
Yeah,
had
no.
just gone through so many.
Yeah,
that you were
so
kind of just
yeah.
waiting for it to happen.
Exactly right, bro.
again.
I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
Get it over and done with. I'm already done. I'm fine. I'm tired. So
Kind of like
yeah,
Final Destination, right?
yeah. So I'm like, fuck, Leo. And then the water. I'm like, wait, this is real. Y ya como que like me echaban vaselina en los labios, and I'm like, all right, cool. You want to go to the bathroom? Because I
You're
had a
like, what the
fucking thing.
fuck?
And then they took everything off, and I'm like, fuck, this one's real. And then like, you want to talk to your family? You don't have your phone with you. We're gonna get it. We left it in McNeil. So my wife went to get my phone, and then she's like, hey, I got your phone. And that's when I grabbed it, and I was like, this one's real.
Damn.
This one's real.
How many
My-
days? Is that day 1 or day 2?
That was day 3.
Day 3. So
Yeah.
it took you 3 days to fully
Yeah, to fully
comprehend,
function. Yeah,
Like, all right, I'm not going to die right,
right. It took me
Wow.
3 days. Yeah.
now. And then, so now we're going to jump from being in the coma to finally waking up for both of you guys and talk to me about, you know, the first things that you guys did outside of the medicals, because I know you guys had to do a lot of medical things, right? But
Therapies and all that.
yeah. But what's the first thing that maybe you thought of? Who did you think of? You know, I understand you guys were very thirsty. You were very hungry.
Yeah.
Like, what are your initial thoughts once you both of you guys know that you guys are alive, that you guys escaped, and that you guys, you know, for now have made it. Like,
Right.
you know, what's next for you guys? Like, where's your train of thought?
My kids.
Your
Because
kids.
then I have first, supuestamente ya habían pasado años. Like
En tu mente,
en mi
¿verdad?
mente, like years, like 10 years. And
Yeah.
my kids were all grown up, so I didn't even recognize these kids. In my,
Oh,
in my-
yeah,
in
you
my-
had
in
a
my
dream
dream.
like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my
yeah.
wife was already remarried. So I
Ah, shit.
FaceTimed her, and then I'm like, are we okay? She's like, yeah. And she looked the same. I'm like, ¿cuánto
wait a
pasó?
minute.
She's like, dude, you're okay. Pasó ciertas semanas. You're fine. I'm like, where are my kids? I don't want them to see you like this. Just relax. They're here. And I'm like, all right, but we're good.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking she's married.
Right.
And I'm like, but we're good.
That's
He's like,
nuts too, man.
But you know, it's funny you say that because yo también, when the doctor started, the nurses, they're like, oh, what day is it? What the fuck am I supposed to know, you know? So ya ves, tienen un calendar in the room, and I'm like, oh, it's May this, you know? Okay, you know where you're at? Yeah. Y yo pensé que pasó un año because some nurses like, what year is it? And I'm like, I don't know. Y me dijo 2021, and I was like, no mames, I've been in a freaking coma for a year. So when I finally started talking to people and texting, I told my boyfriend, hey, it's okay if you don't want to wait for me. Or so I had broken up with him like twice. Y yo ni cuenta que nomás pasó un mes in coma.
Wow.
Y pero él me ignoraba. He would change the subject. So it's funny, same thing, like right
Yeah.
away. But I think my first thought was like, okay, I finally understand where I'm at. But why aren't people visiting me? Do they not care? Yo no entendía that we couldn't have visitors. I didn't think. I'm like, okay. I'm like, they must not care, you know. I'm like, they've seen me when I was dying of like diabetes stuff. I'm like, pero no vienen a verme right now. So I think that was the first thing. Is like, why aren't they here? Why can't I have no one with me? And then, I think for me, the first thing was like, oh my god, I need to contact my school because the last thing I remember was freaking doing the homework and
Right.
telling my teachers I can't go back. And then I said, okay.
yeah, work too. That worried me for some
Yeah.
reason. I'm like,
Work.
am I fired?
You just think all like your
Fuck.
responsibility. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah,
am
your
I fired?
responsibilities. Yeah.
And then right away, because during that time I was living with my dad, and I was like, how's my dad? Because he was sick too. I was like, oh shit, how is he? How are my dogs? Who's taking care of my dogs? I'm like, you know. And you just start remembering stuff, and como que ya las cosas te están conectando, and you're like, and little by little things just start coming back. But I think my main focus was I gotta get back to school. That was like my main thing. Weird. I mean, I'm like, me dolía todo because I had severe nerve damage. I couldn't walk. I couldn't control my left leg. But I was like, you know what? Screw it. I just need to go back. And that same year I got sick, coma. Same year I went back to school. Everybody
Wow.
called me crazy, but I was like,
And then
luego
how-
me va a dar huevonada.
How long were both of you guys like in therapy afterward? Like, how long till you guys went back home?
It took me I want to say 2 weeks to go back home.
Okay.
They just wanted to make sure everything because I'm diabetic type 2.
Oh, you are diabetic.
Gang,
Yeah,
gang.
so-
Puro
Very,
diabetes, gang, gang.
DVT.
Yeah. So it had dropped. Everything supuestamente went back to normal. So I was like, all right, cool. So she's like, oh, mantente bien y come bien, but whatever. And yeah, so they monitor everything. And yeah, within 2 weeks, because I couldn't walk for shit, they had to strap me up to make me get up and try to walk and
Yeah.
shit. So.
Me
and
daban
then-
un walker. I was like, what the fuck is
Yeah,
this?
they gave me a walker. Gave me a walker también. They gave me my oxygen tank. I had to carry that for another month or 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I went back to work in November. I think November, December after
Oh, shit.
after
Fucking like 5
May.
months?
Yeah,
Yeah.
after May. So yeah,
So from April to May, you were hospitalized?
yeah.
Okay, yes. So I went in April, but I didn't come out till July.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, from April 24th to July 9th.
Would you hear the
3
bell?
months.
No.
No, I kept hearing the bell. I'm like, what is that bell? He's like, oh, people are waking up from COVID and they're leaving.
Really?
I'm like, oh shit.
And they would ring a
Well,
bell?
Yeah. they
Oh,
would.
that's what it was then. Because at the
Yeah.
current hospital I'm at school with right now, every time sale un patient with COVID, they play a song. Here Comes the Sun or algo así. I don't
Okay.
know how that song goes.
I know they do it for the chemotherapy people in cancer.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
So when I heard they would do songs, I'm like, how come they never did a song for me? But apparently it was a bell. I didn't
It's a
know
bell.
that.
Yeah.
It's a
I
bell.
didn't
And I'm
know.
like, what is that? He's like, people waking up from COVID and they're leaving. I'm like, when am I leaving?
Mm-hmm.
And like, not now.
Yeah.
You're still.
Did you ring the bell, though, when you left?
I don't know.
You didn't remember?
No, you don't ring it. They ring it for you.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
because keep in mind the whole floor.
Ah, then it's no fun.
Keep in mind, everything's COVID then, so you couldn't touch anything. You sit in a
Ah,
wheelchair,
okay,
you
okay.
walked out, you're escorted
Te
out.
sales,
Y
yeah.
no toques nada, basically. No toques nada, shut the fuck up y vámonos para afuera.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Were you in like ICU or just regular
ICU. Yeah.
And did you go to a regular floor or the ICU home?
ICU to regular floor.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
same
to
thing.
regular
I went from like the ICU home, and then from there me llevaron therapy. Que had to be only 2 weeks, but me quedé for 3 because I had to get that PIC line. Oh, and I got it because aparte de todo, me dio an antifungal infection in my blood. So I had to get a
Wow.
blood transfusion too. So I would have been easily done in 2 weeks with therapy because I was motivated. Like, I need to get out of here. You know, I want to walk. I want to, just go home. Y por the medication, it was for like a month-long period. So me quedé an extra week just because of that.
Wow.
So I spent birthday in the hospital, 4th of July. When I finally knew
Conscious, yeah.
knew what day it was, pasó todo me, and I was like, fuck, I missed my little sister's birthday, Mother's Day, my grandma's birthday, and I was just like, fuck. And I'm like, holy shit, it's my birthday in like 2 days. Oh, I'm going to spend it here. And you just start getting all these thoughts, and once you just start realizing everything, you're like, fuck. And I don't know about you, but a mí me dolía tanto los brazos, I think from being strapped too, but the nerve pain. So they would bring me, the only thing that would help was like ice bags. And not the ones you pop. These are ones you physically put ice into. Y te
yeah.
los ponen. Y going back to being so thirsty, when the speech therapist would come, me dejaba unos vasos that she would leave ice chips in. So once I would finish that, me dejaba el vaso. Y pues yo bien cabrona, I would like sneak down, and I had a desk on top of over my body. So that bag, I would rip it open. Y ponía el vaso entre las piernas. Y the melted ice, I would put it in the cup. And I would drink the water. And I would cough and cough. Pero the more I did it, the more I was able to control it. So when the speech pathologist came again and
I
did the
see.
test,
You were
I was like, look, I could even do water. She's like, I don't know. And I'm like, no, look. And she's like, okay, fine. I'll say you're clear to eat and drink, but you could only drink water with a spoon and only little sips. But even though I was clear to drink stuff, it's this nasty thing that they use to thicken your drinks. So the slow sodas, Gatorade, that was fine. It was like a slushy. Pero una vez pedí agua and they thickened it. And my food, the milk, they thickened it too. I was like, ¿qué es esto? But I would find out any little thing to like drink the water. Y venía las nurses, what happened? I'm like, what? I don't know. They're like, pues with the water, I'm like, it got hard because they would get hard what I couldn't drink anymore. I don't know how they never figured it out. They probably did and just said,
just being
she's been
nice.
through enough. Yeah.
Well, the way I found out about you, obviously through Facebook,
Todo el noticiero.
And then I seen all the noticiero. I'm like, holy shit. And then I
didn't come out of the news.
Celso's gonna be like, hey man, a mí no me hicieron ese pedo.
Dude,
want that promo.
You were only in
right?
coma for 3 weeks. She was in a coma for a month. Actually,
No, like, dude, everybody started messaging me. I didn't know. I'm like, no shit. I didn't even know I was in a coma. I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck?
That's what I kind of wanted to ask.
Go
Knowing
for
what
it.
you know about like medical stuff, like you said that when they would go and pick you up, like were you ever scared? Like did you ever feel like holy shit, this is getting bad?
No, because I went in thinking, oh, I'm going to be here 3 days tops. And those 3 days is the only things I remember. Once it hit April 29th, yo no me acuerdo de nada. I don't
So
remember.
you wake up.
Until I finally
Except
woke up.
like the dreams.
And-
Or was that till after?
I
you
think
were
the
coming-
dreams happened once they started lifting the medications, and I
Yeah.
couldn't differentiate
So-
between
Okay.
what's real,
And
what's
what's-
fake.
So
'Cause
for you guys, it was a little different. For you, it was more when the meds were kind of wearing off a little
Wearing
bit.
off, and-
you were totally in the coma, going through 30 to 40
12.
Because a mí me
Yeah.
preguntan, do you hear stuff? And did you hear stuff? I'm like, no. But when it came to my family trying to calm me down over the phone, you could see it in my vitals.
Right.
So, ¿será que nomás no me acuerdo? And we can? Because
But it's-
so,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But it's not as vivid as
No,
like his.
I don't.
Yeah.
No. I think you probably were on something lighter than me then.
No idea. But I felt it so vivid, and I'm like,
Oh,
I will hear my wife just say, "You need to get out of it. You need to get out of it." And she says she will talk to me. She's like, I would tell you because they tell me like, "Hey, talk to him, see if how he reacts to it, and watch your vitals and everything." And I would hear, I'm like, "Damn, I need to wake up out of this." Like, but how the hell do I get out of this clinic I was stuck in?
Right.
You know, so it was just, it felt that real.
Yeah, so for Yuli, there was like a big, like a pinche banda y el recodo. y
Estaba
la
el recodo.
chingada. Le
Dubai.
dije ahorita ya afuera, como Julio César, espérenme la pinche Cícero ahí en la casa con la banda. But that's where I seen it. And then obviously, you know, I quickly, I think we had already kind of thought about this podcast. And then once I talked to Celso about maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to bring them both because this whole COVID thing is such a...
He's like, I'm experimenting with them. A ver,
Yeah, they're already used to it. They got thrown everything at them. No, but aparte experiment, I just feel like it shouldn't be. I don't think it should be like taboo, right? Like I think that we should all talk about it. Especially COVID is something that is so new, and not everyone knows what the fuck's going on. And you have the people that are anti-believers of the vaccine, and then the whole vaccine questioning nowadays. You know, now you need a booster. A whole bunch of shit. Fauci, the line, all that stuff. But both of you guys are vaccinated and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I am
And then
fully.
now that you guys have been through it, so we're gonna talk. It's gonna be almost gonna be your 1 year anniversary of going through this thing. How do you feel it has either affected you in a good or bad way? Maybe not in a good way, right? But maybe maybe it made you reflect on life, or maybe it didn't. Like, how do you guys feel now, after the fact? You know, trying to get back to the normality, and how difficult was it to go back to your normal life? Like, obviously, you guys did the therapy. Obviously, you didn't go back to work right away. You went to back to school, but it wasn't like right away either. But how difficult was the going back to the normal life? Obviously, you with your family, being married, you with your boyfriend, and being a student. I mean, was it difficult, like for you and them?
Well, obviously, yeah, because they're not used to seeing you like that. I've always been a hardworking person. I always try to, be out there, musician, hard worker. I always try to, show my kids, you're supposed to be like this, and we have to work hard to have what we have. And I guess when they saw me like that, I felt I didn't want to show weakness.
Right.
But then, you can't hide it, man. You can't hide it. You're just like, fuck, I'm weak, and that's it. You grow up looking at your parents being, your dad. Well, my dad, I always see him like, oh, he's a strong man. And I want to be like that, So going back to normality, and then my biggest thing was singing. When I started, when I tried singing, I couldn't breathe right. So I would trip out. I'm like, fuck, así voy a quedar. I'm not going to be able to go back on stage anymore. And it would fucking devastate me. I'm like, man, I can't without this. Like, I need the stage.
Yeah.
I told my wife, and she's like, don't worry about it. Dude, you've been through a lot. Shut the fuck up. Concéntrate en recuperarte.
Right.
I'm like, no, like, I need to get back on stage.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I called that time Jumba con Deriva. I'm like, hey, am I still in or what the hell's going on? He's like, no, bro, tú recupérate. Like, COVID's still going on. We're not going to have any gigs.
Right.
I'm like, I need to practice. And then sure enough, we practiced once to try to go back to normality. One song and that was it. I was like, oh,
Out of
fuck.
breath.
Yeah, out of breath.
Oh
I'm
shit.
like, fuck. And then I'm like, Jones, no te agüites. Give me another practice. We'll try in 2 weeks. I'm like, cool. 2 weeks came. 2 songs. Y así empecé. Otra vez. And even, I think I went back on stage, I want to say back in November? No. Can't remember the exact date, but I think it was a Mansion, one of my first performances, and I have it on my YouTube. Dude, I was super skinny. The shirt didn't fit me. And I was trying to sing, and yo me acuerdo que le decía, me volteaba y decía, polka, bro. Polka, because I'm out of breath.
Ya no podía.
Ya no podía. And I was so nervous, and my hands were so cold. I told mi ahijado, I'm like, hey, tráeme una cerveza. He's like, what? You can't be drinking, bro. I'm like, I need a fucking beer, bro. And it had been a while I hadn't drank. Yeah. So I was like, dude, I drank that fucking beer like no tomorrow. Like, dude, me supo tan sabrosa. I was like,
Como agua la güey.
bro, I was like,
Mejor
I
que
think
agua, déjala
yeah,
chida.
I felt it right away. I was like, fuck, I'm back to normal now. And then
All you needed was a beer.
I
That's
needed
it,
a
guys. We
fucking
got
beer.
it. You get COVID, drink a beer after. You'll be all right.
So yeah, after that beer, I was like, I'm good again. I kept looking at this guy. I'm like, hey, otra canción, I'm good.
No digas
more
el nombre until they
podcasts.
sponsor
Hey,
you. No?
cancel the next group. We're gonna do both sets.
What are the 2 says? No more podcasts, guys.
But, yeah, bro. And then until now. I mean, sí quedé con pocas dificultades because ahorita lo que me quedó es que suspiro nomás de repente. I can't control it. I could be talking right now and all of a sudden, and I'm like, oh fuck.
Okay.
You know, so that's the only thing que me quedó, pero like I kind of learned how to control it, and you learn how to control things. And there's certain vocals I can't hit, so I learned how to bypass those and use other ways to use
Yeah.
it. So I feel like I came back to normal now.
And then how about ways of thinking of life? Like, did it put it in a different type of perspective for you in general? As far as
It did. Yo era antes muy I used to keep grudges a lot.
okay,
So I learned how to, fuck you.
Let go
Like,
of that
I don't
shit.
have time for that.
yeah.
Not anymore. I'm like, you know what? I don't have time for this. Like, whatever. So I learned how to let go, basically.
How about did you feel like you were a little bit more? I don't know if si antes eras cariñoso, no muy cariñoso, más macho. Like, did you think that also changed, or is it you're still the
No,
same?
that's still the same.
That's still the same.
I'm still the
I'm
asshole.
asking because I know Yuli had mentioned that she feels that she's a little bit more fría, right?
The only thing que sí digo que mentalmente sí fucked you up, because ahorita ya estoy más sentimental. Like I'm all
Okay.
into my feelings, but on my own.
Okay.
Like I don't
The
show it,
same.
but
Not
it's,
just
it's on
showing.
my own.
Okay.
I
What
think
about what like in
anything. If like COVID, the COVID talk, I would cry every time I would talk about it.
Okay.
Ahora ya no. I'm like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just anything would trigger. Like even noises. I think I had PTSD with this shit. Like
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
I had a ¿cómo se llama? Esos rooms donde tienen los computers and at work and all those servers and all that shit. So you hear the fans de los computers.
Yeah.
That would trip me out. It would take me to a zone again. I'm like, fuck. And then I told my doctor, he's like, I think you might be borderline depression. And I'm like, well, I think it's PTSD. He's like, yeah, but a veces sí me ponía triste y solo.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
but I didn't want to talk about it. I never told my wife about it either.
Right,
So
right.
till now, like, andaba mal. It's like, you can tell. You would stay serious, like, out of the blue.
She knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y dice, yo nomás te dejaba. Dice, if you wanted to talk about it, yo ya sé cómo eres. So if you wanted to talk about it, go ahead and talk about it. If you don't, just ahí ve tú.
Yeah.
So that would be me, like,
That was
after
you.
that. But ahorita, like, now, going to a year in it, I think I'm all right.
Yeah.
Other than everything hurts. My back hurts, my joints hurts, my knees hurt, everything.
Fuck yeah.
Everything hurts, bro.
Wow. Y tú, Yuli, you told me you were mentioning you do feel like, well, as far as being más fría or más less sentimental, right?
Yeah, I've always been like, si lloraba era por like coraje, like when you just get super mad. But for me to be sentimental, not so much. But I've noticed even more. Oh, se murió fulano. Oh, okay. And I noticed it. I'm like, fuck, shouldn't I feel a little more like sad about this? So I
Right.
noticed it on myself. Y luego my novio, someone asked him, they're like, hey, how do you feel? Ya ve, peda entre all drunk already and talking about my COVID. And they're like, how do you notice her? Y si dice, no, pues sí está más fría. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. He's really así. No, a veces I feel bad for him. Because even my mom and everybody's like, man, lo tratas bien mal. And I'm like, no es que lo trato mal. I'm just very like, like, nos ven and I treat them como si fuera un freaking compa or something. I'm like, I don't care. Y muchos people, a lot of people have told me that. And as soon as I got out the hospital, I don't know about you, but I noticed people just looking, staring, and I'm like, just leave me alone. I'm like, I know I was in the hospital. I look different. I'm like, you looking at me, makes me like como paranoid.
Yeah, well, keep in mind, back in the beginning, everybody looked at it like cooties, dude. Like, oh,
Pues
shit,
ni
you
eso.
got the shit.
For me, it was the opposite of like, oh, make sure she doesn't touch that. Clean it for her. And I'm like, dude, relax. Or help her sit. I'm like, dude, I could do it. Me cansaba para bañarme, hasta peinarme el pelo, brushing my teeth. But I'm like, leave me alone. I could do it. And then even cognitively wise, being in school, I'm like, I can't remember this. I don't know. I'm like, what the fuck? O me decían cosa, like, let's say you just told me something like a minute ago, and I'll be like, what? Huh? You told me that? And my boyfriend's like, es pura conveniencia. You don't remember? I'm like, dude, I don't remember a lot of stuff. Y de repente out of nowhere, I'm like, how do I remember this? But I've noticed emotionally, mentally, and of course physically, caminando, if I talk a lot, and especially it sucks when I'm in school talking with patients or in class, entre más hablo, más como que se me cierra la voz. But I've always had that issue. I've always been a fast talker. And I used to have a very high pitch. I don't know if you remember, Carlos, pero the first time you and me met, I want to say it was, damn, what club was that? It was some damn club. Y te me quedabas viendo, and I'm like, oh, este quiere pedo, okay? Because I used to hate when people would stare at me, and that's why that's why my dad was always like, si es como tu mamá, eres bien peleonera. And I was like, I don't like people looking at me. I'm like, what? And ya por fin te acercaste. He's like, are you Fly's daughter? And I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm like, ¿tú quién eres? Who wants to know? Like, I was very like, ¿qué?
Very defensive. ¿Quién chingados eres tú?
Yeah. And I mean, it's been a while, pero I don't know if you remember, but my voice was super high pitched back then. Si yo les enseño videos, you're like, who the hell is that? I sound nothing alike. I don't sing professionally, but I like it, professional karaoke or whatever. But I would
karaoke.
I would notice that, and that was one of the things I said. I'm like, man, now I can't sing or karaoke no more. Y me decía the speech pathologist, it's okay. That's one thing at a time. Just focus on talking and talking louder. Pero even ahorita, if I try to hit certain notes or talk really loud, se me sale el gallo or it hurts, and after a while it just feels como que hasta tengo como cortadas in the throat. And same thing when you say about PTSD. I think since I had to relearn how to walk and stuff, me daba miedo caerme. And one day, from being transferred from the bed to the chair, I viene una enfermera and she tried to transfer me alone, so she almost dropped me. So I think I got scared. So the other day in school, we're practicing positioning, and they're like, oh, lean back. And I'm like, I can't. Como que my body physically stopped, and I couldn't. And I don't think any of the students noticed, but my eyes started getting teary, and I'm like, I can't. I'm scared. Oh, my God, I'm scared. So I realized I'm scared of falling. When I first came home, my boyfriend me quería abrazar or give me a kiss, and I'm like, I would flinch. Going back to those hallucinations about, like, rape and all
The
that
old
stuff.
man and all that shit, yeah.
So when Valentine's came around, I felt bad. I'm like, I don't even want him touching my hand. Like, I felt weird. Y me recuerdo even being very fría with him. Like, I don't even think I would text him a lot. And now I realize it. I'm like, damn, I probably made him feel like shit that I wouldn't talk to him. And then aparte me breaking up 2 times and me ignoraba. But I remember even now I don't care. Same thing before grudges and being mad. I'm like, he ain't worth my time.
Yeah.
Cambias mucho. I think emotionally too, because there'll be sometimes me dicen, oh, did you ever cry during the hospital? I'm like, no. I'm like, lloraba de dolor because my ankles and pain. But it wasn't until I got out where I finally realized, oh shit, I had COVID. I went through this and that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was kind of aiming at? Like once you guys are out, once you guys are home, once you start realizing, holy shit,
I think it's once you're home, because once you're in the hospital, you're kind of like, I just want to get out of here. I
Yeah.
want to get better.
your priority is to get out of
You
there,
find,
right?
but even como que no, a mí no me cayó el 20 until like probably 2 months about being out of the hospital. I was like, oh shit, y me agarraba así llorando sola. And I was just like,
on your
yeah.
own, you're like, fuck, I'm still here. Like, no la chinguen. Like, I made it.
Yeah, it's kind
All
of
right.
it's
When
kind
a
of
lot
like
of
a
people
grateful
didn't.
feeling,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Y yo como de cabrón, I would joke around. But imagine how badass my funeral. Una banda acá. I would for sure have potrillos. I would make
yeah.
estilo come back together just for that day. And everybody's like, cállate. And I'm like, no, but think about it.
It would have been badass.
Y le digo a todos, I'm like, and I told my boyfriend, he's like, shut up. I'm like, if I ever die, you know, I know, I'm like, nothing's taken me out yet. Because I have a horrible
Medical
luck.
history kind of thing, or
Dude,
what?
I have broken ribs right now.
What?
Yeah.
shit.
Tengo una suerte de la jodida. Like, I've broken so many things. Pero le digo a everybody, I'm like, if, you know, my time comes a little earlier than you guys, que me toque en Cruz de Madera. I don't know. I just like it. And I remembered some dreams that I would have of me dead. That song would be playing. Y
okay.
apenas me estoy acordando now that we're talking. And it's little moments like that, you just remember
Mine was
stuff.
El Muchacho Alegre. Potrillos played it.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
shit.
¿ves? There we go.
Ironically enough, potrillos.
They were on the same floor.
Same
on the
hospital.
Same
Yeah.
hospital.
Where'd you go to therapy?
Same dreams.
Right there in my room. And then
Oh.
the therapist will go to my house.
It's okay. See, no, I had to go downtown, and because I was like, luckily I wasn't put on oxygen. I know you said you had oxygen, and like, because gente se van con oxygen home with lung issues, brain, heart issues, and not me. I don't know why the hell I had good insurance. They just wanted to take my ass downtown,
Oh yeah.
and so I had to do it there, and the therapists, era una joda. They would wake me up at like 7 a.m. and you got to eat at this time, shower at this time, and you only got 20-minute breaky time for this. And I was like, fuck. Y los días that I had off, I was like, oh, I'm bored. You sure you don't have therapy? Like, te pones en un... And it's funny, and I don't know if you've ever... I don't know how to explain it, but there's times where I'm like, como que me digo a yo misma, I'm like, man, I miss being in the hospital. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it. It's
I missed
like
the food. Because it was a six in the morning breakfast. And then like at 10 you had lunch, and then like at 5ish you had dinner and shit.
Te
So
tenían on a
It was
schedule.
good. I was like, oh shit,
like the
I'm well
routine.
fed.
No, a mí no me gustaba. I would call my family, hey, I need you to bring me lunch or this.
Oh
and-
my! The first thing I craved, and when we got out the hospital, when they drove me home, I went to McDonald's.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, what do you want? I'm like, dude, I want McDonald's. And after the McDonald's, quiero una pinche olla de albóndigas.
Hell
De
yeah.
albóndigas con su
albóndigas.
arrocito
I was
y
gonna
todo.
say McDonald's, bro.
Yeah.
Es de Guerrero, cocho.
Yeah.
No, yo diciendo
I'm
que-
Americanized, bro.
No, yo pidiendo pozole, enchiladas, pambazos and stuff.
What was the first meal that you said that, oh man, this is, I'm glad I had
You know what?
this right
I
here.
listed so many things that I wanted, pero a la mera hora, everything I loved and craved before, I didn't want it no more. Stuff that I didn't like before, now I love it, vice versa. So like my taste in food and what I used to like cambió. The other day my grandma made she made carne en su jugo, and she knows I love it. She kept calling me, oh, vente a comer, I'll take you a plate, because she lives across the street, and I'm like, yeah, ahorita voy. And before I would have ran over there, y ahorita me lo trajo un día, ni me lo comí, it just sat in the fridge, like, no se me antojó, like, not even to go touch it, nothing.
Yeah, that is weird. I think that's part of the whole COVID thing, right? Like your taste buds
Everything
change
changes.
and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
And then go ahead, sorry.
Everything will feel salty. Like I would try food. I'm like, fuck, this is too salty.
Really?
Like,
Yo no le
I
haya
couldn't-
sabor.
I couldn't. Yeah, no haya sabor. You're like, fuck, quiero esto ahora. Let me try if this helped.
Yeah.
The thing that it did help me was the caldo de albóndigas. I was like, duh, that shit tastes really good. Dude, I
Yeah.
ate that shit for 3 days, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, I told my wife, like, make me una pinche olla que I want to eat it. Like, la pinche olla nada más. She's like, you sure? I'm like, you don't want nothing else? I'm like, no, nomás esto, sírveme. And that's what I ate for like 3 days. But, yeah.
That's awesome, man. What can I say? I mean, I was very. I had told my compa Bart. I'm like, you know, we're gonna do this COVID one. I'm excited about it. I'm excited because even though I know you guys it's not somebody that I've known for all of my life, like a lot of our past guests. So I wanted to come in here very neutral and wanted to hear you guys' story, and I wanted people to hear the story, and I wanted your families to hear the story because I think that also we're very good at not telling stories, right? Like crying on your own and handling it your way
Right.
most of the time, and so that everyone knows that you guys do have your emotions and you have your thoughts. Y que sepan que it's not that you guys are cold hearted or not. It was a big thing that you guys just went through.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy, obviously, that you guys are here to talk about it. If this whole COVID thing keeps going, we for sure will love to have you guys back on, and just to keep talking about it. Maybe you guys will remember more stuff. But other than that, I'm very glad that you guys both accepted to come in here and share your stories. That maybe or maybe not, I don't know you guys personally. Maybe or maybe not, you guys already shared it with some people, some family. Maybe you did, and maybe you didn't. And if you didn't, well, I'm glad you did here. Because it takes
yeah.
it takes some courage, I think, as well, to be able to just open up and not cry because maybe it was super difficult in the beginning, and hopefully everybody can listen to this and appreciate you guys and appreciate your story. So thank you very much. I don't know if you guys want to send out any shout outs or any personal, like, I don't want to put it out there like, hey, anybody going through stuff to reach you guys, but anything that you guys might or might not want to put out on social media, your handles where they can see you or anything like that. And if you don't, it's fine. Like, it's just,
Yeah,
shout
well-
out to anybody that was there for you guys, I
Yeah.
guess.
No,
I
well,
would
shout
say.
out to all the family that apoyó. They gave my wife food. They even though we didn't need anything, she was really well taken care of. All the people that still went to support. Even after I got out, Misa from
Yeah, they did you a
Saxteño,
little drive-through
Yeah,
thing,
they did
drive-by.
that. Y esa gente dio dinero, dio de todo. I was very appreciative
Yeah.
with that. And well, shout outs to all of them. Get your shots.
Yeah.
Para los que no lo tienen, I highly recommend it. Some protection is better than none, I think.
Very good way to see it.
So that's that.
¿Y tú, Yuli?
No, pues lo mismo. Thanks to my family. My mom had to go basically through it alone. The only one that was there to kind of help her through it was my aunt. So whatever my mom couldn't understand, my aunt would. It was like a three-way.
Yeah.
Looking it up. Oh, this means this, or I'll guide you. All this responsibility on my mom. So my aunt played a big part, but more importantly, honestly, the staff, nurses at the hospital, at the rehab, because 3 months without seeing no family. They became good friends. I still have some friends. I made friends with them on Facebook. We talk. I text with them all the time. I started school. I did this, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, with them, I think I would have gone crazy, just simple fact that they would come in or just even wave hi, or I would say, man, I'm craving a freaking red Gatorade today. Me lo traían. They would go out of their way. Just everybody that was there, everybody who was there the day I came home, family members that I was surprised to see there, the whole block out there. And even to this day, a lot of people, still, are you okay? Do you need this? Because like you said, there's a lot of unknown, I guess you could say, like after effects that goes
Yeah.
on that a lot of people don't know about or don't believe still. And I'm like, dude, te
The
cambia
whole not
completamente.
the whole not believing just fucking gets me, right? Like, and I think the whole Mexican culture has a lot of non-believers, in the virus itself, and it's crazy. I think it's just crazy, the way
O
we all.
dicen,
fuck-
ahorita me vacuno con las que se traen de México. I'm like, that's not going to cut it.
Dude, I actually
Oh,
tried
you should
that. I
do the
tried
job,
the
though. I
3
think
shot
think my dad
vitamin
did
thing.
that too, and no.
That did not work, man.
The vitamin shots.
Yeah, the vitamin shots, they gave me
Esos-
everything.
Oh, ya ves, allá se traen, damn, what are those strong infection pills? La penicillina or something?
Yeah.
Penicillina
Yeah,
from
I
over
tried
there.
that too.
And
That
I'm like,
didn't
that's
work.
not going to solve this.
There was like I don't know if I'm gonna get this wrong, but I know I don't know if it was a guy from Tiranos. Some dude passed away because he had gotten a vitamin shot and se le infectó, and I don't know how or what, but that's eventually how he ended up passing away from that. Something like that, from that vitamin shot. Yeah, there's so much shit. Even like the whole Joe Rogan, the ivermectin, and it's crazy. But thank you very much for coming through. Mi compa Bart, what's
Oh,
your last
man.
words here, man?
I'm just like
Kind of quiet today.
Oh yeah. I'm
Hey,
just,
by the way,
This is
Hey.
only chapter one. This
Yeah,
is
this
the
is
intro.
only
This is the
Hold
intro.
on.
There's
Hell yeah.
so much.
What are you gonna say?
no, go ahead. I'll say it right now. I was gonna say she said red Gatorade. Le voy a dar uno. Ahí tengo un pinche red Gatorade.
yeah.
She made me feel bad. I'm like, what the fuck?
No, it's okay. Yo te pedí agua. It's-
Oh man, I'm just super grateful that you guys came on here for real and told your guys' story. Like Compa said, I mean, I just am in awe of the, cause I mean I have an uncle that got COVID and he passed away.
Oh, I'm
so
sorry.
for me it was like, I remember the last day they called us and they're like, hey, we're gonna put a Zoom call. And you guys could whatever say your last words or whatever, and I went on there and it sucked, seeing them like that, like all
Yeah.
the tubes and shit on there. I didn't stay on there for long, I just when I shut it off. I mean, I do believe in the, I'm not vaccinated. I'll tell you guys straight up, I'm not vaccinated. I'm like, I feel left out like a motherfucker. I'm like, you guys all got COVID. You guys all
can't
got
sit with us.
diabetes. No, like a bunch of stuff.
How
I'm just
fucking
like,
asshole.
He wants
You
diabetes
guys have
too.
diabetes.
you guys are all singers. Like in my head, I'm like, damn, these all people, everybody here has something in common, and I'm like, none of it. But no, I mean, I know it's gotta be fucking not tough, but I mean to talk about it, yeah. I mean, like you guys have to see life different now because I mean, technically, you guys were almost dead, could have died, whatever. I mean, it's gotta be tough to just fucking think about all that. So I appreciate you guys just coming on here and fucking saying your guys' story.
No, and thanks for having
fuck,
us. And I
yeah.
think after a while, you kind of get not used to it, but a little more comfortable. Because usually when I talk about it, I do get emotional, or the whole room's
That's what I'm
crying.
saying.
So
That's
I
what I'm
think
saying.
Yeah.
this time I try to tell
Tone
it
it
more
down.
like funny and
Right.
because anything I've
Kinda
done,
go around
those
it.
chillando y chillando. I'm
I
like,
even,
all
to-
right.
I even told my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm an emotional guy. I'm like, I might fucking shed a tear today. If they shed a tear, I might have to shed one myself. But to everybody that's out there listening, I mean, hey, there's a lot of shit going on with the fucking. Hey, you gotta normalize it, Edgar. Normalize it. It's okay to cry if you're a man.
Yeah.
These guys are all macho 19-year-old kids. But yeah, everybody out there, I like the way Celso put it, where como he says, some protection is better than no protection,
That's
kind of
right,
thing.
yeah.
With the vaccine, I'm not gonna say, hey, go and get it or not get it. People that need it, go get it. There's people that are skeptical. Do your research, look into it. The whole thing with the kids nowadays, FDA is about to approve the kids one. That was a little iffy to me, just because I think kids can kind of, it's not such a big deal for them. And then if you already had the COVID, your antibodies are like 13 times better than the actual vaccine. There's a lot of shit, but look into it because we don't know shit. We just like smoke weed and talk here on this podcast. Para todo lo que están escuchando, thank you very much. José Cermeño, al compa Tocayo that's in here today. Yuli Celso, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Super,
Thank you.
super thanks, man.
I hope everyone enjoys it. I hope everyone learned something. If you didn't, read a book. Ya se la saben. On this one, en esta sí se... Muy merecido. La pura positiva, viejones.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Ding dong.